RuBru means face-to-face in the Urdu language. If you are a Muslim, the RuBru-FTF series can help you find your bearings on where Muslims stand today in relation to their recent past. All viewers may find many of the misconceptions floating around, corrected by the information the RuBru-FTF series supplies. DMSR stands for Do Muslims Still Regress? The basic question of the DMSR series inevitably deals with the compatibility of the Muslim attitude with the Age of Enlightenment. The pursuit of knowledge is a religious obligation for Muslims. In Dr. Muhammad Iqbal's words, the Quran sees in the humble be a recipient of divine inspiration and constantly calls upon the reader to observe the perpetual change of the winds, the alternation of day and night, the clouds, the starry heavens, and the planets swimming through infinite space. Looking at Iqbal's view along with that of an eminent non-Muslim thinker, George Sarton, d. 1956, recognized as the father of the history of science, presents an interesting similarity. According to him, the Muslim ideal was, it goes without saying, not visual beauty but God in his plenitude, that is God with all his manifestations, the stars and the heavens, the earth, and all nature. The Muslim ideal is thus infinite. But in dealing with the infinite as conceived by the Muslims, we cannot limit ourselves to the space alone, but must equally consider time. History presents practical examples of how Muslims have dealt with their obligation to acquire knowledge. The noteworthy points in the context of the DMSR series are: 1. Muslims' contrition to knowledge was purely original and hugely significant. 2. The medieval European mindset put their valuable contribution out of sight for centuries. And 3. A significant development in modern scholarship is an ongoing effort to bring back to sight the Muslim contribution to knowledge put out of sight for centuries by the medieval European mindset. Interestingly, Western scholars are leading this effort. DMSR 3.3 covers some details of this work. DMSR 3.2 covers the Muslim's gift to science, the scientific method, which has done for science what the wheel did for human development. The original contribution of Muslims to knowledge includes the following areas. First, mathematics and algebra. Development of algebra, from Arabic al-Jabr, by al-Khwarizmi. Introduction of the decimal system and popularization of Arabic numerals. Second, medicine. Landmark medical texts like The Canon of Medicine by Ibn Sina, Avicenna. Advancements in surgery, pharmacology, and diagnostics. The Canon of Medicine, completed by Avicenna in early 11th century, remained the standard textbook in European universities till the 18th century. Third, the modern view of history and social sciences. The world-acclaimed historian Arnold Toynbee regards Ibn Khaldun as the most significant authority on the science of history. He calls Ibn Khaldun's philosophy of history the greatest work of its kind that has ever been created by any mind in any time or place. Fourth, astronomy. Pioneering star charts and the study of celestial bodies by al-Biruni, Ibn al-Haytham, and many others. The invention of instruments like the astrolabe to measure stars and time. Fifth, philosophy and logic. Viewing Greek philosophy with Islamic thought by scholars such as Al-Farabi and Averroes. Developing original works on ethics, metaphysics, and epistemology. Sixth, chemistry and physics. Pioneering experiments in alchemy, leading to the birth of modern chemistry. Research on optics by Ibn al-Haytham, laying groundwork for modern physics. Seventh, geography and exploration. Mapping the world with precision by explorers like Ibn Battuta and al-Idrisi. Insights into cartography and geography used globally. Eighth, introduction of the scientific method for proving or disproving hypotheses. Science did not have this tool before Muslims contributed it. It completely transformed the advancement of science. The above discoveries are part of the now-known history of science, which modern research has laid open as a book in front of a modern inquisitive mind. Muslim contribution to science, has another side with a direct bearing on today. A total reflection of the message of Islam in the extremely valuable work of Muslim scientists is relevant more than ever to a part of the Islamophobic campaign of falsely projecting a science-averse image of Islam and, based on this, peddling a range of misinformation on Islam today. The spreaders of this falsehood have been pushed to the fringe, and from there, they still do what they have done for ages. Human knowledge has its own rules for crossing physical or intellectual boundaries that nations and cultures erect around themselves. The process has been going on for ages. The recent work on the history of science has helped bring to light the facts hitherto buried below ignorance and prejudice of the past. The state of knowledge today successfully traces the footprints of knowledge from Sumerian civilization, the inventors of the wheel, to Greece, then to the Muslim world, and to Europe. John William Draper, d. 1882, in The Intellectual Development of Europe, criticizing attempts to put Muslim contribution to science out of sight, rightly predicted that injustice founded on religious rancor and national conceit cannot be perpetuated forever. Despite a European attempt to own the knowledge, the contributions made by Greeks, Chinese, Indians, Muslims, and Europeans in recent times are too significant to be ignored. George Saliba in his Whose Science is Arabic Science in Renaissance Europe traces the footprints of knowledge. In his words, a majestic progressive march of science from ancient Mesopotamia to Greece, with some unresolved questions and caveats on the connection between these two cultural areas, to the Islamic civilization and on to Europe with some marginal input by Indian and Chinese cultures. From the early 8th century, Muslim scholars started collecting books from all cultures, mostly Greek, and translating them into Arabic, which became the international language of Persians, Syrians, Copts, Berbers, and others working with vigor and the intellectual freedom that the men of the desert stimulated in the search for knowledge. Greek manuscripts were acquired in large numbers and were studied, translated, and provided with scholarly and illuminating commentaries. The number of Muslim scientists is too large to be covered in this short video. We will limit this treatment to the findings of the experts in the field who have spent years investigating the subject. It is appropriate to introduce the role of Muslim scientists with a quote from George Sarton. George Sarton recorded his findings in his world-acclaimed book Introduction to the History of Science. George Sarton pays the following tribute to Muslim scientists. It will suffice here to evoke a few glorious names without contemporary equivalents in the West: Jabir ibn Hayyan, al-Kindi, al-Khwarizmi, al-Farghani, al-Rani, Thabit ibn Qurra, al-Batani, Hunayn ibn Ishaq, al-Farabi, Ibrahim ibn Sinan, al-Masudi, al-Tabari, Abul Wafa, Ali ibn Abbas, Abul Qasim, Ibn al-Jazar, al-Bayruni, Ibn Sina, Ibn Yunus, al-Kashi, Ibn al-Haytham, Ali ibn Isa al-Ghazali, al-Zaqab, Omar Khayyam, a magnificent array of names which it would not be difficult to extend. If anyone tells you that the Middle Ages were scientifically sterile, just quote these men to him. John William Draper, d. 1882, in The Intellectual Development of Europe, observes, "I have to deplore the systematic manner in which the literature of Europe has continued to put out of sight our obligations to the Mohammedans. Surely, they cannot be much longer hidden. Injustice founded on religious rancor and national conceit cannot be perpetuated forever. The Arab has left his intellectual impress on Europe. He has indelibly written it on the heavens, as anyone may see who reads the names of the stars on a common celestial globe. In short, this information-drenched age has brought to light the magnificent contribution of Muslims to knowledge so vividly that spreaders of misinformation on the subject have their place only in the fringe, from where they do carry out their well-known operations. The Muslims' obligation to acquire knowledge and their compatibility with the knowledge-based world is obvious. If you like this video, please share it and hit the subscribe button so that the next videos can reach you easily.